Welcome to the workshop How to Manifest by Design. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christian and I will be taking you through the workshop today. Today we are going to dive into how you best manifest in your life based on your unique human design and energetic blueprint. And why am I making this workshop, you might ask? Well, for many years I was conditioned to think that I could only work a 9 to 5 job in a corporation based on my official school education, and that was what I was to do with my life. At some point, it dawned on me, after having burned out quite a few times, as you will hear more about later in this workshop, that there must be another way. This can't be all there is. And it wasn't, because here we are, me making an online workshop about manifestation while I'm sitting on an island in the Atlantic Ocean, working maximum 3 to 4 hours a day and enjoying life abroad. Because I started to understand myself from an energetic point of view, learned who I really am and what I'm really here to do. The agenda for this workshop is as follows. First, we'll start with how to manifest. How does it actually work? After that, we'll talk about the conditioning that holds you back from manifesting what you desire. Then we'll talk about alignment and how to come into alignment. And then I'll give you my story with manifesting and a bit more information about myself. And in the end, I will bring you an offer where you can start your own deconditioning process and come into alignment. First, we'll start with how to manifest, which probably is the reason why you started this workshop in the first place. When we talk about manifestation, it's usually because we want something to come into our lives that we do not currently have, we do not currently feel, we do not currently experience, or something similar. And the reality is that you are creating your own reality all the time. Everything you see around you and everything you experience is a product of the meaning that you attach to thoughts in your life. And in the next few slides here, I will show you why your thoughts trigger something called photon storms in your brain. And those photon storms produce neurotransmitters in response to those thoughts. Those neurotransmitters then create a specific frequency of emotional energy. That energy will be in direct proportion to the meaning you have around those thoughts. And in the most simple form, say if you deem a thought either good or bad, as in the picture here on the right, a corresponding waveform will manifest in your body if you keep nurturing the thought, meaning that you keep producing the neurotransmitters that create that specific emotional energy. To make that a little bit more clear, when you feel very strongly about something in your body, then the scale would be heavily influenced to either side, as shown here. And let's say you think about money and you have great meanings about money. You think that money is abundant and it comes easily to you. Then you are going to create positive emotions when you think about money. If you think about money and it is something that you have conditioning about, it feels scarce or like there's not enough for you, you are going to trigger, quote unquote, negative emotions that's going to hold that frequency and energy within this area of your thinking. And that could, for example, sound like the thoughts, I can't have it, it's not meant for me, money is hard to come around, and so on. And that creates a specific emotional frequency in your body. The more emotional alignment you have around your thoughts, it being either positive or negative, the more that emotional energy is going to create a state of coherence. It's going to line up with those thoughts. And so the universe is going to drop in whatever you need to fulfill that intention, that frequency of vibration. So that's how you manifest into your perceived reality, as above, so below, and as within, so without, in your physical 3D reality. The next part I will go through is conditioning, because it's our conditioning that either gives us or keeps us from the things that we want, the things we want to have, the things we want to feel, the experiences that we want to experience, and so on. Now I want you to go to an external website. So open up a new tab and then put in myhumandesign.com. I will just change my screen here and then I will do the same so we can go through the next part together. Okay, great. Now, either you click on Discover Your Chart here down on the middle of the page, or you click on Get Your Chart in the top bar. They both lead to the same place here. Then you put in your information. In this case, my name is Christian. I am born in February. I am born on the 10th, and I am from 1988. That was there. And I am born 5 minutes to 9. That would be 8:55 p.m. It's in the evening. I am born in a little town called Hvidovre, not so far from Copenhagen. And if you can't find the specific town that you are born in, just take the biggest town closest to, because as you see here, if your place of birth does not appear, please select the nearest town or city in the same time zone. So that would be the nearest town or city in the same time zone that actually pops up on this website when you write in your specific town. You don't have to put in your email here. You just go down and click View Your Chart. And when you do so, you get all this information. On the right side here, you have a lot of what's called chart properties, and on the left side, you have what's called the body graph, and that's this figure with the 9 centers in it. If this part of making your own human design chart went a little bit too fast, just go back, pause the video, and then take it at your own pace. There's a lot of information on the page where you just created your human design chart, and I will explain some of the things that you see on your chart a bit more in depth later in the workshop. But for now, we will continue with the conditioning part of the workshop. And in this part, we will specifically look at your body graph, as I just mentioned, which is the figure on the left side of your chart on the page with the 9 centers in it. In human design, we talk about 5 ways of conditioning, and those are the areas that you see here: openness by center, imprinting, generational energy patterns, genetics, and life experiences. Conditioning is basically anything that keeps you away from expressing your authentic self, which also holds you back from manifesting the things that you want in your life. So you're basically stuck on a frequency within that specific area. And this starts very early on, actually already in the womb of your mother. You start your conditioning process. And that's what we will go into now. If you take a look at your human design chart that you just created, you will see that you will have some centers colored in and some centers that are white, like mine here. The color centers, also called defined centers, are where you carry energy with you all the time. This is an area where you will feel more defined, like this is you. And these are centers where you will feel a greater sense of those specific centers' energy as being part of how you define yourself as a person. The white centers, also called undefined or open centers, are where you are taking in energy from other people and planets, which is always in some sort of flux around us. By being influenced by other people's energy in areas where you have open centers, you might have learned, for example, not to ask for something that you want or something that you need, or you have learned to try and keep others happy, maybe by suppressing your own energetic needs. As an example, let's say that someone you are often around is very emotional or has strong ideas about how to do some things, and you then accept their truth instead of staying in your own truth, what you really feel is right for you. And that's conditioning, a not true expression of your authentic self. In this case, to keep other people happy. The second conditioning is imprinting, and you are imprinted from your family of origin over the years spent with them. So their decisions, their expectations, mindset, and old behavior might be holding you back from reaching the vibrational frequency that will get you what you want and desire. Especially your parents' type and their centers will create certain patterns of behavior that become part of your imprinting. And maybe you grew up in a family like the one on the left here, with good communication skills, a family who had good habits of exercising and eating healthy, who had money on the bank account to buy what they wanted during your childhood. It could also be that you grew up in a family like the one on the right here, where mom and dad were fighting, they never complimented each other or drank too much. talk down on people who had more money, or the possibility to have greater experiences than themselves. And all that influenced your brain as a child, which at the time basically was a sponge due to something called delta, theta, and alpha brainwave stage, which we are in as a child up until we are 7 or 8 years of age. It just means that we as children basically have no filter. Everything just sticks to our minds like super glue, as if it was the truth. And the younger we are, the more it sticks. It's the classic monkey see, monkey do situation. And then when we grow up, we still carry these learned behaviors with us that then subconsciously control our decisions and our lives. Number three is generational energy patterns. And you inherit your human design from your grandparents. So if you go and look up your grandparents' design, you will be able to see similarities to your own. This means that your children inherit their human design from your parents because a design pattern duplicates itself every other generation, which means that the colored in centers and lines of your human design are inherited from them. So everywhere where you have some color in your chart, basically. So family dynamics are intergenerational, which means that patterns can run in families for generations this way. And you can clear these patterns with human design when you start to become aware of them. And that's the whole thing when we start to talk about spirituality, to become aware, become more conscious about our unconscious self, our behaviors, what we put meanings to, our actions, and so on. Number four is genetics. Some of your human traits are genetic, which means that protein codes carry ancestral memory. And these can be held on protein codes for up to 14 generations, according to human design at least. And that means that your ancestral memories are part of the life story that you are currently living. This means that the protein codes influence the expression of your DNA and how it turns out. So you can get triggered in the same way as previous generations did due to your genetic makeup. And some of you might have stories in your family where multiple family members, for example, have the same genetic diseases because no one ever got around to healing that part of themselves or had the knowledge of how to do it. When we start clearing our behavioral patterns, it also changes the programming in our ancestral lineage, which means when you clear your own shit, you, to some degree, prevent it from being transferred to the next generation. Pretty cool, huh? Number five is life experiences. So these are your own joys, your own pains, traumas, and so on. And you carry that conditioning in you and in your perception of yourself. And that's going to influence what you choose and create in your reality. So you can ask yourself what life experiences and complementing energies around those experiences you might hold on to holds you back from creating greater well-being and abundance in your life. It's basically all about coming into alignment, which we will get into in the next section here. But first, I'll just make a little sum up here. The five areas was openness by center, imprinting, generational energy patterns, genetics, and life experiences when we talk about conditioning. Okay, so it's all about deconditioning some of all that conditioning and come into alignment on an emotional vibrational frequency. If you don't have what you currently want in your life, it's because you are not on the frequency band where that thing or that experience exists because there is some sort of resistance. And Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. If you think of a radio, the way it plays music is by receiving frequencies of information from the energy field around it to broadcast the message from the sender through its speakers. And if you turn the knob just a bit either left or right here, it picks up a new frequency, new information, and then it plays a different tune. So if you think of the space around the radio or around yourself as a sea of frequency or vibration, then when you yourself are tuned into the right station, you play a specific tune or you behave in a certain way. The amount of information that is flowing all around us and through us all the time is almost unimaginable. And on the next slide here, I will show you why. Now it becomes a little bit nerdy, but hang on and it will all make sense in the next few slides. Radio waves are light waves, which means that they are just another form of vibrational frequency than any of the other waves you see in the top of the picture here. Light is basically energy waves that through our eyes as the decoder gives us the potential to see different colors, as you see in the lower part of the picture. As you see, we can only pick up the small area of 380 to 700 nanometers of what we call visible light with our eyes. We can't normally see or feel radio waves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, or gamma rays unless we are exposed to it for quite a long time. We can only see 1/10 of a billionth of those waves, but that does not mean that the other waves are not out there. What this means is that since we are part of this field of light, which scientists call the quantum field, we ourselves are essentially beings of light or light beings on a frequency. And we don't have the slightest idea of what is really going on around us because our eyes and the rest of our senses can only pick up and detect a certain range of these waves or a certain range of this information. Most people have these many senses that they rely on: sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. We can only see a very limited amount of light. We can only hear sounds on a specific spectrum. We can only taste things within a certain range. We can only feel things, at least what we call physical elements, and smell things, but only to the degree that we are capable of, limited by our senses. A dog, in comparison, has 10,000 to 100,000 times greater smell receptors than a human being. It makes me wonder sometimes why dogs are all up in each other's butt, but maybe that's just me. From the different senses, receptors and channels are providing your brain with this information, which is then explained as your experiences. And this is what we are trying to change when we talk about manifestation. We are trying to change our experiences in life. Around your body, you have an electromagnetic field that interacts with all this information out there, not only limited to your senses. And this field is normally referred to as an aura. When we're talking about manifestation, your day-to-day life is going to be based on the energy that you send out through your intention and beliefs, either conscious or unconscious, plus the energy that you are currently capable of receiving or open to receive, meaning the things that you are currently capable of manifesting. If you think back to the radio example, your radio or your body and your energy field around you needs to work properly to be capable of receiving a specific range of information in order for you to have a physical experience, which you'll then experience in your brain by the input from your five senses. In order for you to have what you want in life, you need to come into alignment with the frequency that manifests that specific experience. So, if you're not where you want to be in life, you have issues or pain in areas like health, wealth, or relationships, it's basically because you are on a frequency band where those things or experiences exist. So, how do we come into alignment? Well, if you go back and you look at your human design chart, the three most important factors are your type, your strategy, and your authority, as I've underlined here on the right. Following these, you will start to feel a greater sense of ease in your life and manifest greater well being and abundance. Your type explains the energy field you carry around you and how you operate in the world. Your strategy is the way that you cultivate aligned opportunities for yourself in your life provided by the universe. And your authority is the way you specifically are designed to make decisions or align decisions in your life. Your type will either be a manifester, generator, manifesting generator, or projector, as I am, or a reflector. And your strategy will either be to inform others before taking action, wait to respond, wait to be invited, as it is for me here, or wait 29 days or a lunar cycle. Your authority will either be sacral, emotional, splenic, ego manifested, or will authority. It can also be mental or self projected authority if you are a projector, or no authority at all if you are a reflector. On the page where you signed up for this workshop, there is a link to a PDF called Human Design Introduction Guide. In this guide, I have made an easy overview and explanation of your specific type, strategy, authority, and also the emotional theme for your specific type. So please go ahead and check that out. Okay, my story. I've had all sorts of painful experiences in my life that have led me to where I am today. But the one that I will present here, which has been the most prominent in my life, has to do with not feeling good enough. And as a result, I became an overachiever, or at least I tried to. In human design, as you saw, I'm the type that's called a projector. And a projector does not have a defined sacral center, as you see in the picture here. That's the second square from the bottom on your chart. The sacral center carries with it what's called life force energy. And this means that since mine is undefined or not colored in, if I don't take good care of my energy and take time to relax throughout the day, I can have the potential for burnout, which I did quite some times. In 2012, I was 23, 24 years old. I was studying, I was working out, I had a girlfriend, I had a job, I was on social media, I was hanging out with my friends, I was partying, especially in the weekends, which is quite normal for the majority of people in their 20s, which is no problem because the majority of people, actually around 70% of the population, has a defined sacral center. For me, it resulted in burnout, and I was always living on the edge of what I could manage energetically, and it was simply too much. In 2012, I was home on sick leave for 3 to 4 months. And luckily, I was covered by my education with a note from my doctor to be at home, de stressing, still having an income at that time, which sort of saved my ass. Um, After this period of being home, I started feeling better again. I quit my education. That was simply too much. And it didn't really align with me any longer. And then I decided it was better to only focus on my job for the time being. A few years later, I started an education again, which resulted in starting up a cafe in Copenhagen, in Denmark. In 2018, after 15 months of planning, I finally started up the cafe with what was my fiance at the time, now wife. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned, and already 11 months later, in 2019, we had to close down the cafe. We didn't get the expected income that we had calculated into our budgets, and most weeks towards the end of closing down, we were working 80 to 90 hours a week just to keep it running without any payout. I hadn't listened to myself, the warning signs and the feelings in my body. So again, I crashed, and this time for 5 months, ending up with a huge debt on top of it. And it's quite normal for projectors to take a long time to recover. 5 months is quite a long time to regain your strength to recover from burnout. But that's both due to not having this consistent life force energy and having more of an absorbent aura than the rest of the types in human design. Fast forward to 2022, I was working for a big company in Stockholm, 40 hours a week. On top of that, I was working on my coaching business on the side as well, which I started after taking mental training and coaching education after my crash in 2019. And in 2022, or in start of 2022, I already knew about human design, but I hadn't learned my lesson yet. Like I hadn't turned the knowledge I had gained into wisdom because I hadn't applied information anew because I was stuck in an old paradigm. I had a very strong conditioning about work mentality, which I was taught as a kid. Basically, I thought that I had to work hard to be good enough, to be valuable, to have what I want in my life. And so I crashed for the third time. And this is a picture of me from what's called the Södersjukhuset, one of the hospitals in Stockholm. And I sent this picture to my boss at the time. I tried my best to be a bit funny about it, but this is the most beyond compare the most painful experience that I have ever gone through. It was excruciating pain in the heart and chest area for months and months ongoing. And interestingly enough, the personnel at the hospital, they couldn't medically measure me being stressed out. They could see that I looked very tired and feel that what I told them was very real for me, but they couldn't measure it on the machines. And that's quite common when you are energetically depleted, as I was being a projector without a defined sacral center, because projectors tend to get all sorts of weird diagnoses when they try to push through, like I had done here for years. So something had to change. So after 6 months of practically doing nothing, walking in the woods, working out a bit, meditating a lot, I realized I need to take this shit seriously, or else I might not be here very long. And my wife was pregnant at the time, so not the best time to go and die on her before our first child was born. So I started to take things seriously. I started to respect my energy type, to respect my strategy, respect my authority, how I am to make decisions, basically respecting how my energy works, and instead learn what else I could do to live a pain-free life in a way that I could still achieve my goals. So I would still feel like I was actually living. So after my healing process, I quit my quite well-paid job. It was a bit scary, but we did have some money saved up by the time. And instead, I started to study human design. And this is where things really started to take off for me personally. While living in Sweden, I made this vision board, as you see here. If we start in the upper left corner, I wanted to teach people how the brain works from a stage, have a nice car, continue to hike in the woods, eat healthy, work out, and look good, take care of myself, go to ecstatic dances, try ayahuasca, ceremonial retreats, meditate, and live in a place with palm trees, sun, and warm weather. A few of the things I had already made a routine of at the time I made this board after I crashed, but I still wanted to keep things or keep these things in my life because they keep me healthy, like the workout, the meditation, eating healthy, and hiking in the woods, because it also fits with me and it's quite important things to do when you are a projector. And of course, for many other people, these are nice and calming things to have as a standard in their life. But for me, it became a crucial part from in my life as a projector. Okay, anyway, now here in start of 2023, I have managed to reach the rest of my visions on the board. I'm now teaching people from a stage online like we're doing now here, but that also fits way better with my specific human design profile. We now have a car, not exactly the sporty Mustang like the picture underneath it, but this was the perfect car I ended up with, because else I wouldn't have been able to pack all our stuff in it when we decided to relocate and move to the Canary Islands, where we are living now. Plus, I realized that I actually like to sit more upright when I drive a car because I really like a good overview of the road. And if you have ever sat in a Mustang, the seat is placed quite low and does not give you a very good overview of the road, at least in my opinion. I started to hike, and I was hiking with a group of some nomad people down here, and we went hiking, and I continued my meditation and healthy foods because a healthy body is, of course, what you experience all the other things with. I still work out, but a routine that takes a lot less time, maximum 20 minutes a day, and it's also less frequent, so that I can respect my energy at the same time as I can feel good in my body. So instead, I have changed my mindset around what's currently possible, including in the calculation that we also have a baby now, which is quite time consuming, although very enjoyable. In Sweden, I had ayahuasca and San Pedro mescaline ceremonies, and I frequently participated in ecstatic dances and also a tantra festival, very dressed up for the occasion, as you see here on the right. The last two pictures of the palmy beaches in the bottom of the board I put on my vision board because both me and my wife wanted to live in a warm place with palm trees where we could walk with our daughter on the beach. And that's basically what we are living now. The picture on the lower left is from the hallway outside our front door, and the other one is from one of the many beaches here in Maspalomas where we live. What you manifest might not look exactly like what you thought. As I explained with our car, or for example, the place where we ended up here on the island, sometimes we think we know what it is that we want or need, when in fact, what eventually come around for us, provided by the universe, was exactly what we needed instead for our conscious expansion and further development as a human being. And some of you might have experienced this in your own life, not getting exactly what you wanted, but instead exactly what you needed to be able to work with that emotional part of yourself. At least I know a few people who have experienced the universe showing up like that for them in the past. How do we get unstuck and come into alignment with what we want and to have these new experiences, as I mentioned in my own story? The most important thing for me has been to decondition my old mindset and learn about my energetic blueprint. And on the next slide, I'll show you some of the healing modalities, tests, techniques, and educations I've taken over the last few years to get here, and which ones I think have been the most effective. As you can see, I've tested quite some things by now to find out what works and what does not for me. I started out, like many other people, on the left side, under the red dot here, in the physical area, basically starting by cleaning out the medication I took at the time, cleaning out the food that I ate. I started to filtering my water and so on. Then slowly I moved into the mental area, both the conscious and subconscious, understanding where my physical behaviors came from. Then I moved into the emotional area. I learned a lot about how the mind works together with the emotional body. And then the natural next step was ultimately a full-blown deep dive into the spiritual area with human design, manifestation, astrology, healing, and everything else that comes with it. And all these things I've gone into in the last 4 to 5 years. And this sort of massive testing, as I've done here, fits very well with my profile in human design because I'm what's called a 3-5 profile, which are so-called experimental learners. Actually, all profiles that has either a 3 or a 6 line in them works like that. And you can see your own profile on your chart where it says profile, and there are 12 profiles, each one with its unique path through life and how that specific person learns the best and basically goes through his or her life. For me, with a 3-5 profile, I need to figure out what works and what does not, and then bring my findings of what does actually work to the rest of the tribe, so to speak, like I do here in this workshop. So I've tried quite some things over the last few years, as you see. The things I've learned the most from was first and foremost to experience with my diet. I was on medication for ADHD when I, at some point, was given a book called Grain Brain, which explained the implications of wheat and gluten, for example, from bread, on the body and the brain. And soon after I was off my medication, I eliminated gluten, milk, soy, coffee, energy drinks, for some reason, cauliflower. I didn't have meat for 3 years. Basically anything that could bring my energy down. So that took a few years to test. Next step was my 8 months mental training and performance education in 2019. And this really ignited the fire in me to learn more about the human brain and how we work as human beings, because it basically comes down to our daily habits, which can be reprogrammed with the right mental training. That learning soon led to a course on attachment styles, like how we relate to each other in relationships, based primarily on the relationship we had to our caregivers, moms and dads, in our upbringing. And after that, human design and manifestation followed soon after, because I was ready mentally and emotionally to take that step, stepping into the vibrational frequency of that experience. And all these things that I mentioned and why I love the human design system is that to a vast degree, that all of the rest of what I have learned in the physical, mental, and emotional areas is explained in human design because it all has to do with energy. Regarding the food part in the physical area, in human design, it's not explained in detail what you should eat, but how you should eat, in what environment, frequency of meals, and so on. That is explained to some degree. Mentally, how you work and why you work the way you do, it's also explained in human design. Emotionally, why you might work the way you do regarding your emotions, there are also an explanation for that. So that's why I've decided to help people with learning and understanding human design. For me, this is one of the fastest ways to help people live a better life in greater energetic alignment with who they really are, to enjoy life more and to tap into what they came here to do. What I'm saying is, when you have the right knowledge, you can start turning things around to decondition the conditions you might have gotten over the years, as I showed you earlier, which lets you manifest more of what you want in your life. Because when you hold the knowledge of the blueprint of your human design, you have the opportunity to leverage that information and use it to your own advantage, which means that you will be able to create with greater ease in your life if you follow some basic rules, basically. Energetically aligning basically means changing your current habits, which changes your current life situation, which means that the things you want to manifest and experience in life start to come around and show up in your life. The same, of course, is true if you don't. If there's no new learning and no change, you just get more of the same reality or more of the same vibrational frequency. We are all specialized beings, and that's what's so cool about human design. For those of you taking this course, none of your charts that you're sitting and looking at are the same. It's a manual tailored specifically to you for how to come into alignment and start manifesting a better life. In my opinion, when human design is understood and applied, it simply provides the opportunity for the most amount of personal progress in the shortest amount of time. Dolores Cannon, for those of you who know her, she said Earth is a school for mastering how to manipulate energy. And that is exactly what we're talking about here: how to use your unique human design to manifest more of what you want in your life by deconditioning and coming into alignment. Some of my learnings with this system I have written here. I can let go of my grudges way easier towards other people. That's definitely sure. I can let go of my anger, my fear of not measuring up. That was a big problem early in my life. And my bitterness. Bitterness is the emotional theme of a projector. And I can feel that that was a big theme in my life earlier on. But now I can recognize it, I'm aware of it, and I can let it go when it starts to show up, which means that I am less reactive and I'm more responsive in situations and conversations with other people. I'm more understanding of other people and their situations because I know that they have their own design. I know that they came here for their own reasons and they have their own conditioning, which means I can respect my own needs better as well. I can learn to work with my energy instead of against it now that I have a manual for what to do and how to do. I feel a greater sense of worthiness because I know that most of it is just conditioning. Like it's other people that have taught me things in a certain way that I have taken in and understood with the level of consciousness that I had at that time, which means I have become more relaxed in who I am. I hope that shines through in this course as well. I know that other people are telling this to me, especially my wife. So that makes me able to be more humble, be able to listen. And when listening more, I can learn more from other people. And last but not least, I can manifest faster and in a greater alignment with who I am and what I need to feel good in my life. And that definitely is happening at the moment now. Synchronicities are just happening all the time, which means things are coming into my life like faster and faster, like in the direction that I want to go. Some of these things I have learned on the slide here, partly doing my mental training education, but it was not before I started studying human design that I really understood it. And it started really to escalate and that it made sense to me. Like all these things listed here were made possible because I let go of my conditioning in various areas, which in return made room for greater trust in the universe, being more relaxed, more in alignment, which has led me to manifest and let things, experiences, and the things that I want to experience and want to have like come into my life way, way faster. So this actually brings me to the offer that I have for you. As I mentioned earlier, if you don't have what you currently want in your life, it's because you are not on the frequency band where that thing or experience exists. You being here today means that you are ready for this message and knowledge to be applied in your life. What human design teaches is how to come into alignment with your energy and whom you are meant to be so you can manifest an aligned life for yourself. The offer is called a human design reading, and most people book a reading because they are in pain, either emotionally, physically, in their relationship, financially, in their career, or they have spiritual pain of not living in alignment, and so on. And the common denominator for these people is that something in their life is not feeling good or feeling right, and they know that it could be better. They don't always know why they are hurting or what's going on that's creating perhaps even a pattern in their life that continues to manifest itself over and over in all these different core areas of their life. But it's something that's keeping them from expressing their true self. And in a reading, we will go through your type, strategy, authority, and your emotional theme, which is about your signature and not self, the feeling that you experience in your body when you are either in or out of alignment. We will also talk about your profile. The profile, as I mentioned, is going to tell you a lot about how you best learn in life and your best learning style in life. The four variables, which is the four arrows at the top of your chart, are used to come into optimal alignment with your physical reality to make it easier for you to align with what you want, which is quite important because what you want to manifest also needs to show itself to you on the physical plane. Before a reading, I send you a video of the first four areas that you'll need to see before the reading, because then we can dig deeper into the areas and your profile and the variables in the session on the day of your reading. And by gaining this new knowledge about your energetic blueprint, you unlock more of your subconscious or your unconscious part of yourself to be better at making more aligned decisions forwardly in your life. The price for a reading is normally $222 and it takes about 90 minutes. And the price includes a video recording of your reading. It's optional, but I highly recommend it so you can go back and rewatch your session because it can be a lot of new information to take in. It also includes a 30-minute follow-up session where I check in with you if you are living your specific type, strategy, and authority, if you're understanding your profile, your variables, and so on. And basically just to hear how it's going with you and if you're manifesting what you want in your life. As you probably already know, knowledge is worth nothing without implementation. So I'm doing these follow-ups to check in with people if they have any clarifying questions or need help with anything so they get a good starting push in the right direction of implementing this in their life. The cost of a reading includes all of the pre-reading, the preparation that I have to do, and then the post-reading process, the emails, the recording, scheduling, and so on. Since you have taken your time to be on this workshop and are with me this far, I would like to give you a good deal on the reading. But before that, I will just show you a few reviews that people have sent me so you can see what they have gotten out of the reading. Here we have Pernille who says, in our conversations about my human design, some patterns have occurred to me that I have not found an explanation for elsewhere. And these patterns that Pernille are mentioning are part of the conditioning, as we talked about earlier, that she was finally able to pinpoint and work with consciously. We also have Natalie Johnson who says, the reading I had with Christian truly opened up for so many new perspectives and insights about myself and my life. These insights that Natalie mentions are the how-tos of your energetic blueprint. So how you mainly work with your energy, with your strategy, and with your authority. You live by your profile and in your correct physical and mental environment to live in greater alignment. We also have Max Winter here who said, Christian is very good at understanding details about human design and gives a very holistic approach that opens up a new world of self-knowledge. This new world of self-knowledge, he mentions, when applied to your life, I promise you, you will see yourself, the world, and your life in a whole new way. Hamid, on the other side here, he says, it felt safe and he was there with me. I get that feeling with people who are passionate about what they do. One of the most important things for me in a session and in life in general is that people feel that I care, that I take them seriously, and that I'm passionate about helping them get out of or relieve whatever pain they are in, or help them gain a greater understanding of how they could get more of what they want in their lives. So these comments are very, very dear to me. Okay, I'll get back to the offer now. Since you have decided to invest your time and effort in learning something new by being with me on this workshop, I would like to give you 50% off this reading, which means when you go and pay for the reading, you simply put in the discount code Great Deal 50, as you see here in all caps or capital letters, and then you click apply. And when you do so, the price will be reduced to $111. Now, that's a good deal, right? The link to the Human Design reading can be found on the page where you signed up for this workshop, or on the last page in the Human Design Introduction Guide. The question before any investment is always, is it worth it? Is it worth my time? Is it worth my energy? Is it worth my money? And that, of course, is totally up for you to decide. But I'll show you just one more review that might influence your decision on this. Here we have Eliza Rosenquist, and she says, the most important thing that became very, very clear for me is how to make decisions in alignment with who I am, so it's easier to go in the most beneficial direction. This is really priceless. And that's super important because the decisions that you make in your life is going to influence where you end up in life. She also wrote this last part. I really appreciated his mindset expertise that he weaved into the session when we uncovered some conditioning patterns that showed up. And I do not know how to phrase it, but I felt really encouraged to stand as a strong woman in my feminine power. And that's exactly why I do this work, not only with Eliza in her session, but with people in general, to get people to a stage where they feel this empowerment in their life, because that gives me the greatest feeling of success. And success is the signature feeling for projectors. So, besides the money paid for the reading, this is priceless for me. When you combine your new human design knowledge with a bit of courage to make new decisions in your life, it makes you so much more powerful. And when you start making new decisions, you start embracing life in a new way. And that shit gets rewarded by the universe, by a new manifested reality. This was a very nice experience when I got this review because it hit me. That's exactly why I do what I do and why I got into human design in the first place, to feel great myself and to help other people feel exactly the same. As we talked about earlier with the conditioning part, sometimes in a session, some things that keep clients stuck come to the surface. And then I use my knowledge from my mental training and own experiences combined with human design to see if we can solve the issue right there and then, as it happened with Eliza. It still takes some time and work for you as a client afterward, but sometimes all you need is somebody who can see where you need a little or a big push for you to see a whole new side of yourself. And the knowledge that you get in a human design reading, you can use in your life for the rest of your life. So I can't really stress enough how important I think this is for people if they want to progress personally and start manifesting more of what they want into their lives. As we spoke about earlier, if you are creating your own reality, you need to know who you are, right? As you can see from my own story and examples from the people I've had readings with, it's possible to change up your frequency. You just need to learn how you are uniquely designed to live in this life. And that's where human design can help immensely. The more we decondition and learn to love ourselves, the more we come into a place of alignment and the more juicy manifestation we are going to do. If something shows up and you love it, great, ask for more. If you are done with your current narrative and how your life is playing out for you, then ask for something better. But we need to learn and remember to use the mind as a creative tool to stimulate an emotional response in order to create what we want to experience more of in our lives. I hope you have enjoyed our last almost hour together. If you have, please take your time to leave a quick rating of the workshop so other people can find and enjoy it too. And besides that, all there's left to say is thank you very much for your participation in this manifestation workshop. I hope to see you very soon for a human design reading, but all the best for now.